Hi, good afternoon and welcome to the PMI webinar. This is the first webinar that we are having in 2022, and this is my first after I took over the role as a director of events. My name is Santosh Joshi, and I'll be your host today. This session is being recorded for the benefit of those who could not make today's meeting. The recording will be kept in the repository with the PMI Ireland chapter. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Brian, who is volunteering for the events team. He has a special instruction for you. Brian, over to you.
Thanks very much, Santos, and it's an honor to be volunteering for this event with Ricardo Vargas, an absolute legend in the project management institute world. So if everyone can type in their questions into the chat box, Ricardo is going to focus for 50 minutes, and then I can ask him the questions after that time has elapsed. Thanks very much for your assistance with this. Thanks, Santosh. Over back to you, Santosh.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Brian. It is a pleasure to introduce you to Ricardo. Ricardo, one second, let me share screen.
Go on for CPD hours.
So Ricardo is passionate about transforming the ideas into action. He is advocate in the project economy. Ricardo specialized in implementing global initiatives, and he is managed more than 20 billion in international projects in the past 25 years. He has written more than 15 books there in the project management field, and that got translated into 6 languages, and more than 500,000 copies have been sold. And that is an incredible contribution to the project management field. Ricardo also created and led the Bright Line initiative from 2016 to 2020, and was a director for project management and infrastructure at United Nations, leading more than 1,000 projects in humanitarian and development projects. He holds the PhD in civil engineering, a master's in industrial engineering, and undergraduate degree in chemical engineering. Ricardo, it is nice to have you today with us. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. It's really a pleasure for me to be with you today, and I'm glad we make this happen. I just want, before I started, can everybody see myself in the big screen, right? Because I will share from here. Okay. So what we'll do today, what is the plan today? It's to share with you a little bit more about the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. So I want to share with you, I would say, my perceptions. I would say, part of the team that created several versions of the PMBOK Guide. And this one is quite unique. And I know that a lot of people are asked some questions. For example, where are the 49 processes? You know, where is the inputs, tools, and techniques? All of them, did they disappear? What happened with them? So this is basically the idea I want to share with you today. One of the things I want to start with, it's what's the image? For example, when I was trying to prepare myself to discuss and try to describe what is the PMBOK Guide, I tried many things to explain what I would represent PMI. You know, it's a pyramid, it's a tree, and this. And the best thing that I came out during the time that I was studying was the concept of the umbrella. And if you understand this concept, it will be very easy for you to understand why the PMBOK is different and what is the intention of this new PMBOK. So why an umbrella? When we think about an umbrella, what is in our mind? It's an umbrella is something that covers and protects something. And basically, if we go here and try to see what is behind here. And when, for example, when we think about these spaces here covered by this umbrella, what do we think is here? It's all basically all possible delivery methods. So, for example, Scrum is here. Safe is here. Lean is here. Prince2 is here. And the most important, the PMBOK 6 is here. So let me explain to you what do I mean by that. The PMBOK 7 did not come to replace the PMBOK 6. One thing that I don't have the answer, okay, then you need to ask PMIs, why the same name? Why this guide is called PMBOK and why not something different? Okay, I would assume that because the name PMBOK is very powerful, they decided to keep. But the PMBOK guide changed from the concept of processes to principles. And principles, they fit in any kind of methodology. So, for example, if you ask me today, can I use PMBOK 7 and Scrum? Yes, you can. So the concept underlining the new PMBOK is not a predictive or waterfall, but it's anything that you can do to connect ideas to reality. No matter if tomorrow, and this is, I think, one of the most important topics I want to share with you. If tomorrow someone develop a X, Y, and Z method, whatever, a X, Y, and Z method here, what this will mean? It will mean that the PMBOK will still be valid under that circumstances. And this is why it's so different today. For example, if you go, for example, to pmi.org and log in as a member, you will see on the PMBOK page that you can download the 7th edition and the 6th edition. So in the past, when the 6th edition came, PMI removed the 5th edition, but the 6th edition is still valid. For example, I was giving a talk in Malaysia a couple of weeks ago, and I said this. For example, if your delivery approach is more, this was an oil industry, is more towards a waterfall, towards predictive, you can continue using perfectly. Everything that the PMBOK 7 edition is saying does not contradict that concept. And this is one of the key concepts we need to understand now when we talk about that. So if you see here, so all Prince2, FL, Kanban, critical chain, all of this, they are protected under this umbrella. And this umbrella, if we try to take a look on this umbrella in a different perspective, we will see two things. One thing is called principles, and the other is called performance domains. And what is a principle? Okay, and the principle is the initial part of the book. And by the way, I just want to highlight one thing. The PMBOK guide is not that full PDF you download. That PDF has two books that are binded together in one document. The first book is the standard for project management. And this standard is the ANSI standard in the US. This part, around 80 pages, this is where principles are presented. The second part is the PMBOK guide, where the 8 performance domains are presented. So it's strange because we always, and including myself, we call this the PMBOK guide. But in reality, the PMBOK guide is just the second part and the second piece that are related to the performance domains. Why this? Because the first part, the principal part, is an ANSI standard and need to comply with several American regulations to be considered a standard. And this is why this time PMI decided to make two different but they decided to bind them together in one concept. So this is just for you to understand. So what is a principle? A principle is basically a foundation on how we approach something. Principles, they guide behavior. So principle is not predictive. They don't want to teach you anything, but they want to stimulate a behavior that they believe, regardless of your approach, will deliver better results. All these principles are interconnected and they do not have an order. There is nothing that you can come to me and say is uncertainty, complexity more important than risks. No, they are all the same and they are presented in an order, but it doesn't matter the order. Performance domains are the answers that PMI gave to that set of principles. So PMI created 8 performance domains. And these performance domains, the best way to explain when you are reading the guide, imagine 8 small books, each of them covering one thing. For example, the performance domain measurement. It will cover relevant techniques, relevant concepts for you to measure your project, no matter if you are using earned value project management, if you are using predictive, or if you are using OKR. So did you see? So all these concepts are presented. So when you read these, and I will show this very quickly to you in maybe 10 or 15 minutes, but you will see that they adapt to different circumstances. So it's not, for example, you should do earned value. No, you should measure things. And you can measure in different ways, depending on how is your approach to your project. This is the tricky point here. And the best way I did to represent this, I'm very visual, so I love this concept of infographics. So it's something like, take that umbrella, and do something like this. Take the umbrella and look from the top. Look from the top and see that cover of the umbrella. And if you see that cover of the umbrella, you will see this set of shapes. And these purple ones are the principles. And the orange ones are the performance domains. And when you see this in a more clear way, you will see that when I draw this, I didn't put, for example, dotted lines here. I tried to make something very fluid because I don't want you to relate stewardship to stakeholder. No, this is all, imagine this umbrella circling. So all of this is happening at the same time, and all of them together, I would say, create the concept of the umbrella for your approach. So the performance domains are in orange and the principles are in purple. Now let's go to the principles and let's explain what do they mean, each of them, what do they mean? And I will introduce them in an order because this order is the order of the PMBOK, okay? So it goes from stewardship to change. And in order to introduce each of them, I created this, I would say this small table here. I put a graph, a visual graph, the name and the concept on the PMBOK. And all this part down here, all this part, it's my view of that principle. So it's something that you can quickly read and relate. Let's start talking about stewardship. And let's try to understand what do we mean here. Stewardship means that you are diligent, respectful, and caring steward. To summarize, means you are a responsible adult while leading and working in a project environment. When I talk about being responsible and adult, what do I mean by that? I mean that you respect the law, you are ethical, you care about what your company does, you care about the best interests of your company. This is all about stewardship. So you are responsible. You, for example, every time you have a conflict of interest, your project in your company takes the precedence. I love, for example, there is one rule that there is a book that is for me one of the best books I have read in the past 12 months. It's the Reed Hastings books about Netflix called No Rules Rules. And one of the first rules that Reed put, it's you always make decisions that are in the best interest of Netflix. And the second is read the first one. And that's it. It's simple like that. It's everything. If you're doing a procurement process, what is in the best interest of the company I'm serving? And this is stewardship. So keywords for you to remember quickly what I want to say here. Care, honesty, trustworthiness, compliance. So all these aspects of compliance, all these aspects of ethics, everything is packed on this stewardship principle. Second principle, team. It's not that you know how to play in a team, but you create a collaborative project working team. And a team that knows how to play together, how to work together, and how to collaborate. And a team is not a group of people. So you need to understand that you cannot work alone. You need to work with a team. And working as a team, we are not talking about friendship. We are not talking about, oh, this person is my buddy here and I'm no, it's professional collaboration. So we are talking about collaboration, teamwork, all aspects of culture, and shaping the culture of your project and your organization goes into this team bucket. So everything you talk, for example, when you read the things that are on the performance domain that I will talk soon, we'll talk soon about team, you'll see all these cultural aspects. How do you shape culture? How you work on psychological safety so people feel safe to try and to have an open conversation. This is all about this principle, the principle called create a collaborative project team environment. And all the roles and responsibilities. For example, if you want to be very pragmatic here, and you ask me, oh, a responsibility matrix, where does it go and what kind of principle it tries to address? The team principle. How the people will work together to address the project. Third one, stakeholders. And stakeholders, it's not, again, it's not about, I would just, if you don't mind, I would just ask you all to mute yourselves, okay? Just to help me. You know, I'm very used to do that, but I miss a lot the in-person events. You know, I'm talking here. Imagine that you're listening to me looking just to a camera, so it's new time. But next time I will be in person talking to you. But stakeholder, what do we want here? We want to engage stakeholder. We want to engage them. We don't want to manipulate stakeholders. We don't want to manage stakeholders. We don't want to control stakeholders. We want to engage them. We want to create collaboration with them. And this is exactly try to affect those who directly and indirectly will influence. So one of the key competences of a great team, a great project team, and a great project manager, no matter if you are using Kanban as your delivery approach, or if you are using front-ended loading or FEL, you need to engage them because they exercise influence in your project. And they come and go. They are internal or external. They can be, these are the keywords, they can be a specific individual, they can be groups, and they can be even organizations. And all of them, they have a massive ability to influence your project for the good and for the not so good. So you need exactly to understand this. The fourth one is for me, I would say probably, I don't want to create, I would say, some kind of ranking, but this is the one probably people are most concerned today. And why? If I go back to the time I became a PMP, I became a PMP in 1999, 23 years ago. At that time, do you know what was a good project manager? A good project manager was someone that delivers on time, on budget, and on the quality, on the required quality. This was a good project manager. It doesn't matter if you're delivering a crap product, because if someone created for you a project charter saying you should create this crap project, if you deliver it on time, on budget, and inside the quality parameters, you did great. So what happened over these 20-something years? At some point, people start saying, you know, it doesn't make sense. Why you should deliver on time something that does not add value? And this is exactly what is happening in the past, I would say, 15 years. We are talking all the time about how do we add value. And there is a quote that is probably one of my favorite quotes on this topic. It was proposed by Eleanor Goldratt. Goldratt is the writer of the book The Goal and one of the fathers of the critical chain concept. And the first thing he said is, when you are inside a hole, the first thing you need to do is to stop digging. You need to stop digging. And this is absolutely related to what I am talking here, to what I'm talking here. It's exactly because what is focused on value? If today your project stopped delivering the value it was supposed to deliver, what you should do, it's your duty or care as a steward to stop your project. And this is very relevant and not very easy to do. Not very easy at all. So this is exactly how you deliver value. And it goes far beyond a simple delivery. We are not talking about on time, on budget anymore. We want different things. And the benefits, they can be realized during or after. And this is a key difference. For example, when we talk about Scrum and very strong waterfall approach or Agile, because what do you want? In some kinds of projects, you can deliver value almost ongoing. For example, if you are doing a software, let me take my phone, a software for a phone, and you release a new feature and you upload, the customer and the value will be perceived 3 hours later, 2 hours later, and you create a minimum viable product and you go update. This is very valuable for that kind of project. However, for example, I work a lot with capital projects. I would say it's hydroelectric power plants, airports, these big capital projects. This is where I work most. It's just impossible for me to think about the new airport of Dubai and say, oh, let's do an MVP. Let's make a track here and let's put some planes to take off, land, and see if it works. If it doesn't work, we move the track 300 meters to the left or to the right. This doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. The cost to do that, it's billions. Look, I love astronomy. And look the example of James Webb Space Telescope. 25, I'm not discussing the challenges and the budget, but imagine the criticality of you when they decided to launch. There is no return. There is no return. If something goes wrong, it's over. 25 years and billions that will be trashed because there is no possibility for you to deliver value. Even today, we are about 40 days after the launch. And what's the value today? Zero. Until we start receiving the actual astronomic images that could leverage astronomy to a new level, there is no value perceived. But they need to focus on value. And this is exactly what is this principle about: outcomes, success, business results, benefits. And this, for me, is one of the best things that could happen to us, because I work with project management my whole career, and it's a massive opportunity for us, I would say, to play in a higher level. Most of the time, our biggest challenge is that project management and project management concepts are always, on underground, on the basement. People don't see. But when you think about delivering business results, you go up in the ladder and you create a concept of creating a value chain and a value delivery system. And this is probably a big piece of the PMBOK is exactly that, okay? Next one, system thinking. This is just to explain to all of us that your project is not isolated. Your project is inside a pan, inside water, that is inside a pan, that is on the top of a stove, that is in a kitchen, that is outside. And that there is a lot of things that could happen. And this gear, your project gear, is not alone. And we all saw this in the past 2 years with COVID. We all saw a massive impact on the work we do, no matter the work you do, due to something that is pretty much outside of our control area. And this is the concept of system thinking. By the way, I just published recently on social media, there is an MIT open course on YouTube about system thinking that is just incredible and absolutely free, talking about how do you recognize, evaluate, and respond to system interactions, how you can become aware. And this is a key principle, that things are constantly evolving. Why most of the companies, the startups, they fail? Most of the time is that because their founders and their leaders, they are so in love with their project that they just forget to understand system interactions. And when they see, and when their product is ready, the market has changed. Look what happened now with retail. I don't even need to, I spoke in England recently about it. We don't need to talk about real estate, retail. This is all changing, and this is all this system thinking interaction. Look, the global supply chain crisis for those working in manufacturing. When Apple recently, 3 months ago, said that they will miss the target for the iPhone sales not because lack of customers, but because lack of parts to produce the phone. This is almost unbelievable for one of the wealthiest companies on earth. So basically what we talk here, interdependency, system of systems, integration, holistic view. So all competences that must be addressed by this project manager, by this project team. They need to understand that there is no way you can save your project without looking to all these interactions. And these interactions are becoming more and more powerful and more, I would say, complex to integrate. We all are seeing today crisis in Ukraine. We see yesterday, just for you to know, Vodafone in Portugal, I live in Portugal, was shut down by hackers. So every single person with a Vodafone phone yesterday was unable to use the phone. This is, I would say, maybe probably 30% of the population for one day. This is what is happening. I'm talking, and maybe you have no relation with Vodafone, but you feel the impact in your work and your daily. This is exactly what we are talking about, system thinking. Leadership, this one I don't need to say too much, but it's demonstrate leadership behavior. Only one thing I want to share with you here, it's this comment. Anyone in the team can demonstrate. Leadership behavior is not to be the boss or to be the employee. Leadership is not, oh, the project manager has leadership. Anyone can have leadership. And all the aspects here of motivation, empowerment, example, leading by example, and influence become key, absolutely key on this leadership aspect. Next one, tailoring. And this one is only about one thing. One size does not fit all. I will never forget what happened to me maybe 10, 15 years ago when someone reached out to me because I have the popular videos on YouTube on the PMBOK, and someone said, Ricardo, I want to do something PMBOK compliant. And I said, what do you mean by that? Can you explain what is PMBOK compliant? I have no clue of what you're talking about. And he said to me, Ricardo, but my project has no procurement. So I'm not doing the processes of procurement. So I'm not using all the process of the PMBOK guidance. Say, who on earth told you that you should do that? Who on earth said that this? It's not, the PMBOK was not created to be prescriptive. So people need to know what the PMBOK is about. And this is about tailoring. This is why, for example, the PMBOK has a full chapter on the PMBOK 7 all about tailoring, telling that you need to adapt your approach. For example, many people talk to me, what is the approach you use in your projects? Do you know what my answer? The one that works. And most of the time is a mess. Is a mix between everything. Because I am a PMP for a long time, but I am also certified in SAFe. I'm also certified in Scrum. I'm also certified in Prince. I am also IPMA level A. You know, I know technically from study all the tools, but what do I need? I need to adapt. So many times I mix Scrum with a WBS. Why? Because on that specific case, this is what works. And this is very, very important. Very, very important. So there is no best methodology. There is only the right methodology. And your delivery method, it's a mix. And this is where we are talking about predictive, iterative, hybrid, and the best image. I tried, okay? When I was looking for an icon, I put a scissor because it makes me remember a tailor. But the best image would be a Swiss Army knife. But this one would be so small that you will not see here. So this is why I chose a scissor. Then quality. So this one also is quite easy. Some of them are very easy. Build quality into the process. So basically, what do you want? You want to satisfy needs. You want to fit for purpose. You want to fulfill the requirements. So all requirements, everything we talk about requirements and things like that are based on this quality aspect. Complexity, and this one is one that some of them I want to stop a little bit more because they are really, really relevant for our context. And this is complexity. What is important here? You will see on the following principles that they are all pretty much the same thing, looking through different lenses. The first one is navigate complexity. And I put a ship as a drawing for two reasons. First reason, because navigate. It's navigation and it makes me remember ship. And second one, do you remember what happened in the Suez Canal last year? That was absolutely incredible. I want to ask you, go to Google Earth. Mark Suez Canal. Give a zoom. The width of the Suez Canal is 300 meters. I will repeat, 300 meters. I would say 2 blocks, 3 blocks, okay, normal blocks. This point, when the ship crossed it and choked at that point, 17% of all global trade was halted. Imagine on Earth, 40,000 kilometers wide with a choking point of 300 meters. That create all the collapse we saw on that time. And this is complexity. This is complexity. And we need not to work against complexity, but we need to accept the complexity. And this is all about the concept of VUCA: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. All about that. All about that. It's how do you manage this? And this, another concept I want to share with you when we talk about that. Think about Nassim Taleb concept called anti-fragile. The book is not new, but the concept is so useful today. Because what we need to become anti-fragile. It's how you navigate all this complexity of everything changing in such a dramatic way, very fast, in a very unpredictable way. And this is what we are doing. And most of these things are outside of our control. We are not those who control that. I'm pretty sure none of us here control global trade. None of us here control if there will be a war next week in Eastern Europe or not. But we will be impacted. That's for sure if something happens. And this is complexity. And what is the best thing to do? There is a book from Rita McGrath that I love called Seen Around Corners. And this book is all about this here, indicators and triggers. And she has a wonderful quote: "Snow melts from the edges." So every time things may become challenging, there are indicators in the borders that will allow you to see, something is coming. Something is coming in my direction before even it reaches to you. And this is a key. So this is why, for example, complexity is very close to measurement, is very close to the next one, that is risks. So how do you optimize risk response? How you are able to optimize the way you answer to the risks. That can be threats and that can be opportunities. And of course, risk is a different concept for each of us. It depends on how is your risk tolerance. For example, I spent 5 years of my life leading all the humanitarian projects at the United Nations, at UNOPS, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, even at the time of the Islamic State. When you go to these places, you need to understand what is my risk tolerance. How much risk I am willing to run to do that, or to build that road, or to do that response. Maybe it's different if you are working in a construction company, because most of my projects were construction projects. If you are working in a project building something in Dublin, it's just different. It depends on what is your appetite and what is your tolerance to do that. And this is a critical thing. Remember, when people talking about working from home, if we go back 3-4 years, many companies said people will never work from home, because if people work from home, they don't work. And then 2 years ago, when COVID came, these companies were faced with a brutal reality that changed their appetite for risk. Said, you have 2 options. They work from home or they don't work. That's it. That's it. You don't have an option. You don't have an option. And most of them were forced, I would say, to go to Microsoft Teams or to go to platforms like that. And now it's pretty much natural, right? It's pretty much natural that we spend, probably all of you, most of our time in this kind of scenario, working from home, talking to people. That's it. And this is changing. And this is changing how do we see and perceive risks. How do we see and perceive instabilities? For example, just for you to know, the people at the beginning, I am with COVID now, today, at this moment, okay? At this moment, and I'm working. 2 years ago, nobody was even thinking that someone contaminated with COVID would be, I'm happy that none of you will be contaminated from me here. But you know, it's a different thing. Risks change over time. Risk changes over time, probably, and I hope very soon. This will be part of our life, normal life, and life will move on and people will continue their normal lives. This is the concept here. The third one that is also related, look, complexity, risks, adaptability, and resilience. And adaptability means you embrace adaptability. You need to understand that adaptability is absolutely everything. That you must be adaptable. And you must adapt yourself to become more resilient. And this is exactly what we need now to build back better. For example, I have 2 daughters, okay? I have 2 daughters. One just graduated in the UK and lives in Germany, and the other one is going to university. And they ask me all the time, Dad, what is the biggest ability I should have? It's ability to adapt. To adapt. If, for example, I need to talk in front of people, that's one thing. If I need to talk using a camera, I will talk. If I need to adapt the way I work, I will. If I need to adapt the way I develop my software, I will. Because things are changing. I will never forget. Let me tell you a brief story that it's really a reflex of how we need to adapt as parents. When I was young, the biggest fear of my mom and my dad at that time is Ricardo is a lot outside the house. Now people are concerned about Ricardo is a lot inside his room, his bedroom. Social media. When my oldest daughter became 13, I came to her and say, I have a gift for you. I will open for you a Facebook account. We were very strict on that, and we opened because the age was 13. For her, it was something like open the world for her. This was quite a while ago. 4 years later, my youngest daughter was turning 13. What I did? The same. I came to her and I said, Gabriela, 13, it's time for us to open a Facebook account for you. Do you know what was her answer? Do you know what was her answer? She said, Dad, Facebook is for old people. 4 years. So I need to adapt myself every single time. I need to adapt myself every single. Because today is Instagram, is TikTok, tomorrow is whatever. I know that in 5 years from now, something will pop up that will change completely everything. We need to adapt because things are evolving. And the last but not least is change. It's enable change to achieve the envisioning future state. One big step here. In the past, all PMI and project management mindset was change is something you need to control. It's something like your train is on the track, you need to move and make sure your train is on the track. Now we're talking differently. We're talking change is the only permanent feature of any project. That's it. If your project is 3 months long, 6 months, there is no way it will not have change. And change is a natural part. This is why, for example, it's important for you to have psychological safety. Because when people try, they need to feel safe. There is a lot of people that are resistant to change. Oh, that's for sure. It's a natural process. For example, I was here preparing one talk, and I was, taking this book here, the Change Manager's Handbook, talking about ways to handle change, because change is not easy, because we love to talk about change, but we don't like to change. It's in your mindset because we are not sure how the future will look like for us. And when I was at Brightline, I did a research on that. And this research showed one thing: people act on their own best interest. So how do you move someone to change? Only if the person see that is good for her or it's good for him. Otherwise, people don't move. And this is why so many transformations fail. It's not lack of money. Oh, not at all. The world has a lot of money flowing around. The problem is that people don't want, because people are afraid. They don't know what will happen to them. How will be their safety? How will be, I would say, their status? Will their knowledge be enough? Even, please, even as a long-time volunteer and working with PMI, even for the PMPs and the PMI community. Many of people say, oh, this agile is irrelevant, this and this, the good PMBOK. Today, it's pointless. You need to do what is the best for your project. And it's not one-sided, it's not this, I would say, war around the development approach. This is irrelevant. And the PMBOK 7 try to address that. Now, I want to go quickly here over the performance domains. The performance domains are something like the answers. Imagine what I said. These is small booklets that goes from stakeholders to uncertainty. And you see that some of the names are, I would say, in some ways quite similar. So let me go quickly on each of them. They have the same structure. So stakeholder, it's this part, this chapter on stakeholder has all activities that you can do to make sure that you are working together and nicely with stakeholder. One question you may ask me, Ricardo, I don't get. Chapter 13 of the PMBOK 6, stakeholder. Principal, stakeholder. And performance domain, stakeholder. Are all the three the same? Are all of them the same or not? No, they are not. Chapter 13 of the PMBOK 6 combines all the processes for you to manage stakeholders. Is one approach to stakeholders. The principal stakeholder I just mentioned, it's to make sure, I'm not discussing what technique you will use, that you engage stakeholders. And now, stakeholder here, it's all activities that is very related to the chapter 13 of the previous PMBOK to make sure that you have this productive working relationship. So aspects of communication, actions around supporting and opposing stakeholders. Again, it's not friendship, and stakeholders change. So on this small booklet of stakeholder, it talks about potential activities, and it's not prescribing you that you should do this or you should do that. It's just a broader concept. Let's say, in some cases, people do this. In other cases, people do in a different way. Team, same thing. How do you address responsibilities of the team? So here it talks about roles and responsibilities, team culture. It's extremely connected to the leadership principle. It's how all the soft side of teams, how you motivate people. For example, remember, I'm saying probably many of you are already PMPs. Remember when you were studying for PMP in the past, motivation, Maslow, Hesberg, McGregor, all these theories of motivation, they are all here. They are all here. All concepts of emotional intelligence. When you are reading this piece of the PMBOK, it's like a journey on time, because you will see many concepts that you already saw in previous PMBOKs around motivation, around teams, about shared ownership, about how to lead people, responsibilities. These Hello.
Yeah, you are back on the camera now. Ricardo.
Okay. I'm controlling my time here. I thought maybe I was over time. Okay, but go into the development approach. This is, please, if you don't have time, the only chapter I pretty much beg you to read is this chapter. This chapter tells you how you can make the best possible decision on your approach. This chapter for me is the best because this chapter addresses this. What is the best delivery approach for your specific project? So you use a predictive approach when you have defined requirements. You use adaptive approach when you have high levels of uncertainty, like technology. Hybrid, you combine both. And many factors address your approach. So please read this because this is exactly the end. For example, one of the things that drive me really crazy is when people come to me and say, oh, you should use agile on this. Or I say, look, there is no one size fits all. Go to tailoring again. You need to decide what would be the best approach on that specific case. And this gives you a lot of hints for you to work with that. Planning, okay? Planning, this, I love this also because all activities required to coordinate and organize the projects. You will see that now it's becoming more close to the PMBOK 6 here. So it's strongly related to the development approach. Here is where the concepts like WBS, the composition are presented, but also the concept of evaluating multiple options. When you carry different options until you see that the benefit is not worth anymore, then you disregard that option. This is very common in Agile. So all the estimating, scheduling, budgeting is here. And if you want to relate this to the previous PMBOK, this is basically the planning process group of the PMBOK. This is basically that planning process group of the PMBOK. Project work. So just to be very quick, if planning is related to the planning process group of the previous PMBOK, project work is related to the executing process group. It's everything related to the actual work. So when we think, let's stop, when we think about actual work, we think about procurement. We think about how do we reduce work in progress, right? How do we deliver the value by reducing this? How do we create lessons learning? Lessons learned. How do we do retrospective, for example, in the case of Agile, to evaluate what happened in the previous sprint? This is all related here. And when you read these chapters, you see that it's really a big mix of different concepts. Delivery is all the work you need to do to make sure that you meet the requirements, the quality, and the change aspects. So all the concepts about cost of quality, all the evaluation of stakeholders, all the concept of fail fast and learn fast, everything is related on the delivery. Remember, you plan, you execute to make a delivery. These are how these three pieces or these domains connect. You plan, you execute, and you generate a delivery. These are the three aspects we control here. And in order to make sure these three will work, you need to measure. And this chapter is all about measure. And one of the things that I really love, and I already mentioned, it's in the same chapter, you see earned value, you see dashboard, and you see Kanban in the same. It looks different because what is the intent? It's to make you a project manager that is able to navigate through different scenarios. This is all about the concept of measurement. And finally, uncertainty. Uncertainty wants to address all the topics, that final principles. Remember, complexity, uncertainty, all of them. So it's assured that you are managing the concepts of VUCA. So all concepts of risks, all early warnings, all triggers, all early indicators, all of this is here. And this is very close to the chapter 11 of the PMBOK 6th edition, very close. You'll see, when you'll see on the risks, very close. Risk identification, qualitative risk analysis, quantitative risk analysis, development of response, implementation of response, monitoring of risks, all of this. And one key concept, uncertainty is not a bad thing. Okay? They can be opportunities. This is a very important point. Key takeaways, right? I'm already 2 minutes late. So PMBOK 7th edition does not replace the 6th edition. The new guide is an overarching set of principles, okay? And if you go to the PMBOK 6th edition, you'll see that the PMBOK 6th edition tells that it works for most of the projects, most of the time. If we see here, we are talking about any project, any method, with any delivery approach. So what is the idea of the concepts of the principles is to, no matter if you even use go horse, that means do nothing, you can still benefit from the principles, the concept and the application, the concept of the 12 principles and the application through the 8 performance domains. Look, I prepared an infographic that is Creative Commons, okay? And that's for free. Probably some of you already download. So if you go to this link, you can just download, and it's available in something like 9 or 10 languages. So you can just download, okay? And make the best use of it. There is one empty one, and this is all exactly what I shared with you on this slide. And this is absolutely for free for your use, okay? So now I want to go to the questions, and I just want to apologize one more time for being a little bit late on my time here.
Thanks a lot, Ricardo. It was a great insight into the PMBOK 7. Brian, do you have any questions for Brian for Ricardo coming from the audience?
Yes, and a fantastic presentation it was, Ricardo. Just the first question, Ricardo, from PMI Events External is, does PMBOK 7 play the umbrella management guidance role for all other standards like Prince2, SAFE, etc.?
Sorry, I'm just trying to. Oh, yes, I see here. Okay, look, it's not an umbrella management guidance role. What I don't like in the question is the management guide. Principle is one thing. Principle is not management. Principle is something. The best way to explain principle is something that you need to have in your body. You need ethics. It's not something like, to do a stewardship, fill this checklist. There is no checklist. It's a behavior. So this is why, for example, no matter if you use Prince, if you use Agile or whatever, you are a responsible adult. And this is why I don't like the management guidance. But does the PMBOK play a role underlining principles that could be applied to Prince2, SAFE, FEL, whatever? The answer is yes.
Thanks a lot, Ricardo. Just in the interest of our time, we are almost near the closure. Probably, Brian, you want to have a last question for Ricardo?
Yeah. So there was a very good question from Stephen O'Donnell here. So the question, Ricardo, was about your points on the importance of system interactions, Ricardo. When your project is a contract within a company and the wider company's organizational processes impact your team's productive time in the project, how would you account for that?
Yes. First, one key thing of the PMBOK, I said this very briefly, Stephen, is shared accountability and shared responsibility. And this is one of the key points. Of course, you as a project manager managing your team, you have the scope of your responsibility. But for example, if you manage well your stakeholders and your system interactions, you make sure that people are accountable for their piece of information. That, for example, it's not because you are just a contractor that you become, I would say, vulnerable to any wish your client may do. Of course, you can regulate this through contracts, but also you can regulate this to this concept of shared ownership. Okay, for me to own from here, you need to make sure that you provide everything up to here. So this clarity and working together is only possible when you engage well the stakeholders, okay? When you are working, because it's not, I don't care. I would say in the sense, I don't care if who is guilty. I want the project to succeed. And the best way to succeed is that we have the shared ownership and that it's not, I did what I have to do. It's not that behavior that we are talking today. We want really to make the project to succeed for all. And that this is a very big mindset, a changing mindset.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for
Ricardo.
that, Ricardo.
Thanks, Brian. So quickly going to the closure, we are almost towards the end of the session now. Those who have registered with a PMI ID will get a PDU credit for attending this session. And if you are going through this through the recordings, you can still claim these PDUs using the PDU claim that is shown on the screen. So thanks a lot for your time for attending the session today, and I hope you got the lot of information through this session. You have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care. Okay. Stay well.
Thanks, Ricardo.